There are people in our community and in our world who are suffering. Some don't have clean water, some don't have enough food. For others, even the roof over their head is uncertain, economic insecurity, job instability. And we're aware of this, at least in moments. And when we're aware, we're often asked to respond, to take whatever difficulty we ourselves are experiencing and allow it to open up outward towards empathy and compassion for those who are facing something much more difficult than what we're facing. And this motion outward is important. But there's another direction that compassion needs to travel. It not only moves from us toward others, it needs to move inward as well. Compassion includes the way that we treat ourselves. And that may sound obvious, but in practice, it's not that easy. One of the things that surprised me early on in my rabbinate was how often people approached me in a way that felt less like a rabbi and more like a Catholic priest. And what I mean by that is they would confess. Not in a formal sense like with a priest, but in tone. They were coming to me to say something, to tell me something that they'd done that was wrong, and for me to say it was okay. I actually had a rabbinic mentor who said, as long as they haven't killed their dad, just give it to them. Sometimes it was about something like, eating rice on Passover, which your rabbi does. Other times it was about a strained relationship or something said in anger or a decision that they carried out that they regret. And the details would vary, but the underlying question was often the same. How harshly should I judge myself? And after this happened several times, I already told that joke. There was something both simple and profound in my rabbi's response. It wasn't about dismissing the responsibility, essentially, when he was talking about this. It was about recognizing that imperfection does not always deserve punishment. It's about encouraging people to relate to themselves with a measure of kindness. That also means we shouldn't punish ourselves. Most of the things we carry and the moments that we replay over and over again in our head are not as consequential as they feel. They've not caused lasting damage, and yet we hold on to them, turning them over, using them as evidence against ourselves. We become our own harshest critics. And so instead of moving forward, we stay in an endless cycle of self-recrimination, anxiety, a quiet sense of not being enough. And there's a term for an alternative approach, radical self-compassion, comes from the work of a therapist, Tara Brach. I always want to call her Brach, Judaizer, Tara Brach. And it speaks directly to what many of us may experience in times when we feel uncertain or overwhelmed. When we're stressed, fearful, reactive, when things feel unsettled, our instinct is often to look for a cause and then for someone to blame. And sometimes that blame looks outward, but often it turns inward as well. We tell ourselves we should handle things better, that we should be stronger, calmer, more capable, and when we fall short of those expectations, we tighten the pressure on ourselves. Where this radical self-compassion that Brach talks about offers a different path. She describes it through a simple framework she calls RAIN. Recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. So we begin by recognizing what is happening within us, not fixing it, not evaluating it, but noticing that we're doing this. And for many of us, that recognition may be of anxiety, uncertainty, a sense of being overwhelmed. And then we allow those feelings to be right there. Don't ignore them. Recognize them, don't ignore them. Don't push them away. Breathe through them, stay with them, even if we can only do it briefly. And from there, the I, investigate. Not in a harsh or interrogating way, but with curiosity. Where's this one coming from? What's it connected to? Is it only about this moment, or does it reach further back? And finally, we nurture, we respond to ourselves with the same care we might offer someone else. We remind ourselves that we're not alone in these feelings, that we've experienced difficulty before and found our way through it, and that not everything we're feeling is our fault. We can't prevent difficult emotions from arising, but we can shape the way we respond to them, and we can keep them from taking over completely. And there is something in that that's also in earlier Jewish thought. Really, what isn't? The Hasidic tradition speaks about cheshbon hanefesh, that phrase that I used earlier, taking account of one's soul. Not once a year, the phrase is used often associated with Yom Kippur, not once a year, but regularly. So we look honestly at ourselves, at our actions, recognizing where change is needed, striving towards growth, and this is serious and something that is demanding. It's not something that's easy. The stakes are even high. So the Baal Shem Tov taught that the world's redemption begins with the individual. Each person, through their actions, through their refinement, participates in this larger process of the redemption of the world. But there's a risk that this kind of constant self-examination without balance can become too heavy of a load. It leads not to growth, but to discouragement. A person can begin to feel that they're always falling short, always behind, always in need of correction. My son tells me to never go off script. I'm going off script. I've been reading this week. I'm going way off script. I'm just telling you. The work of the disciple of Freud, Ludwig Binswanger. And he talks about this idea, the extravagant ideal. And what he means by that is when we hold up an ideal that we can never reach, an expectation of ourselves that's absolutely impossible. It's inevitable that as we're striving for it, it feels really good, and we're not going to get it, and what happens? Thump. And that's a really good observation. It's really similar to what this Hasidic teaching is. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi recognized this tension. He understood that self-judgment has a role, but it can't stand alone. Alongside it, there must be another quality, mercy. He describes this as a process of sweetening, such a beautiful word. Just as bitterness can be softened with something sweet, so too judgment can be tempered with compassion. The same inner voice that points out what needs to change must also be met with a voice that says, you're still worthy, you're still capable. And without that balance, this becomes unsustainable, this reaching for a better self. So it emerges across these different frameworks, Tara Brach, and then I threw in Binswanger for a little bit of spice, and also Hasidic thought, is a shared insight. Growth does not come from intensity alone. It comes from the ability to do two things at once, to be honest to yourself and to be kind to yourself. We're asked to take responsibility for our lives. You're not off the hook. And we're asked to do so, though, in a way where we're not diminishing ourselves. Not easy. Requires, constant work. It requires an ability to adjust. It requires noticing when we've tipped too far in one direction towards that discernment and honesty, which is a little bit too much honesty, or maybe we're being too easy on ourselves, that compassion. We need both. And this time, each week, introduces a different rhythm, Shabbat. Shabbat is not an escape from the rest of life, but it allows for a recalibration within it. It allows us to step slightly outside of the constant motion of life and notice what we've been trying to build, what's been neglected and what's been carried on for too long. What's been neglected, Not everything needs to be resolved, but something at least needs to be recognized, or we can't get better. If there's something to take from all of this, it may be this, that the way that we relate to ourselves matters, and it shapes how we relate to others. It shapes how we move through the world. Compassion is not only something we extend outward, it's something we practice inwardly as well. It's hard to move it outward if you're not doing it inward, right? If you're in self-blame, it's a lot easier to blame the people around you, right? It just becomes this mode of existence. And when those two directions begin to align, even imperfectly. It opens the possibility of living not only with a greater sense of honesty, but a greater sense of care. So this Shabbat, may we learn to soften judgment with compassion, to hold ourselves with the same care we offer to others, and also to carry that awareness with us out into the world and into the rest of the week. Shabbat Shalom.